In 2005, a modern interpretation of War of the Worlds came out, and it was absolutely terrifying, giving us a glimpse into an alien invasion shown through a tragic and realistic lens. Based on the H.G. Wells story and directed by Steven Spielberg, it stars Tom Cruise as Ray, a selfish and cynical divorced father of 2 kids, Rachel and Robbie. And one weekend, while his kids are in his care, monstrous alien pods rip out of the ground, and before you know it, the world is plunged into a full-scale alien invasion, of which the world is unprepared for. Where the world around Ray and his kids plummets into chaos, with the threat of danger and death at every turn. Ray must step up to be the protective father that he's meant to be, in order to save his children from the devastating War of the Worlds. So it's time to go back and explore this refreshing approach to the alien invasion genre, as we look into 10 things that you didn't know about War of the Worlds 2005. So let's check it out, and hopefully people can make it past the 12-minute mark, which according to my analytics is where people tend to switch off. So let's do this! Number 10. War of the Worlds 2005 happened because of an actor-director bromance. In 2002, director Steven Spielberg and actor Tom Cruise worked together for the first time on the science fiction thriller Minority Report. And the two got along really well, with Spielberg saying he loved working with Cruise, calling him an intelligent creative partner who brings great ideas to the set. After making Minority Report, both Cruise and Spielberg really wanted to work with each other again as soon as they could find the right project. It was while Spielberg was directing Catch Me If You Can that Cruise visited the set of that movie and presented Spielberg with 3 potential movies that they could work on. And one of those options was a War of the Worlds remake for Paramount. The prospect of making such a movie immediately struck a chord with Spielberg, and both he and Cruise just knew that this was the movie that they had to go and make. And so just like that, this new 2005 iteration of War of the Worlds went into production. Number 9. Exploring the scary aspects of aliens. A modern retelling of War of the Worlds would have seemed right up Spielberg's alley, as he had already directed several scary movies, some of which featured monsters, with the likes of Duel, Jaws, Poltergeist, and Jurassic Park. He had also previously directed 2 alien movies, with the likes of Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. the Extraterrestrial. But in both those movies, the aliens were shown to be kind and empathetic. Aliens that didn't want to come to Earth to destroy or conquer, but to reach out and make contact and even friendship. And War of the Worlds was something of a game changer for the director's filmography of aliens, as he was now showing aliens as cruel, ruthless, and dangerous, making this his first exploration into evil aliens. This was something that Spielberg found to be really exciting, to make this turn into making a movie about scary aliens, as it is something that he had never done before, leaving far behind the innocent image of Elliot and E.T. flying over the moon's face. Speaking of which, in the late 70s and early 80s, he was in the process of making a movie about sinister aliens called Watch the Skies, which would have seen aliens terrorizing a family who live on a farm and mutilate cattle. But the project got split into 2 movies, and would evolve into the as mentioned E.T. and Poltergeist. So now, many years later, Spielberg could finally make his vision of terrifying aliens. Number 8. A low-key personal alien invasion story. Previous versions of War of the World have been told on a grand and epic scale, where we see the ultimate battle of humans versus aliens through the perspective of many characters, while seeing the invasion through a worldwide lens. The script writing duties for this War of the Worlds was offered to J.J. Abrams, but he turned it down, as he was working on Lost. So Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles writer, Josh Friedman, penned a script. And then after that, Jurassic Park and Spider-Man writer David Coep came on board to make rewrites. Coep wanted to make the story more low-key and personal. Instead of seeing the invasion through the eyes of the military, government, scientists, and a heap of characters, you know the usual. Instead, he wanted to focus on a single family, giving this big-scale movie a small-scale aesthetic. Namely, a struggling divorced single father and his 2 children. Something that resonated with Spielberg, having gone through a family divorce himself when he was a kid. And I also think that War of the Worlds was also a way of righting a wrong from Close Encounters, in which that movie sees the main character leave his family to explore the universe with aliens, something which Spielberg would go on to regret doing since becoming a father himself. Where, with War of the Worlds, he insisted, unlike Close Encounters, War of the Worlds was about keeping a family together. Yep, no one gets left behind. Number 7. War of the Worlds of a post-9/11 age. It was also decided to make War of the Worlds feel hyper-realistic and a story about survival, something that Spielberg got on board with, as he felt that it was a reflection of uncertainty and devastation that happened in the 9/11 attacks. In fact, some of the scenes in War of the Worlds looks chaotic, with handheld, shaky filming, which at times feels like a documentary, and also looks eerily similar to some of the footage from that terrible day, as well as other scenes and visuals also invoking memories of 9/11, which I think made War of the Worlds even more of a scary story this time around. Probably due to the wake of the attacks, it was decided not to feature scenes of famous monuments being destroyed. That, and it was also felt that it was cliché. So unlike movies like Independence Day, where landmark buildings, like the White House being destroyed, are meant to be exciting set pieces to give popcorn thrills and excitement to the audience, it was decided to not go for that approach for War of the Worlds. Once again, probably as a reflection of those times. And I think it works. The invasion in War of the Worlds 2005 isn't the fun, exciting alien battle adventure seen in the 1953 original or Independence Day, but it's disturbing, creepy, and somber, and really tragic. So I think in the wake of 9/11, that was the right direction to go in, especially for that time.
And it's true. You have invasion movies with destruction in the 90s, and you get Independence Day, where we see destruction and the audience goes, "Yeah, that looks awesome! Whoa, look at all those effects!" However, you get invasion movies post 9/11, and you get War of the Worlds, where you're not really cheering the destruction, but feeling unnerved and really uncomfortable.
Number 6. The alien technology was drastically changed. So with this new, realistic version of War of the Worlds finding its own identity, Spielberg threw another spanner into the mix to truly have his vision of War of the Worlds to have its own unique flair, and that was the means in which the aliens arrive. He didn't want to have the aliens arriving on Earth in spaceships, as by that stage he thought that that was all very, been there, done that, we've all seen it. In fact, something we've seen time and time again. The original story does actually feature Martian cylinders, which are fired to Earth via huge space guns on Mars, in which the alien creatures travel in the cylinders. Now, having giant space guns firing aliens at planet Earth no doubt would have clashed with this more realistic approach, so it was decided to have the aliens underground, with them being buried deep into the Earth for a very long time, whom are awakened by bolts of electricity, aka alien tech. And I find the idea of aliens being buried here the whole time to be an interesting approach, and it does lead to more intrigue other than they're just Martians from space. And it is a creepy notion that dormant monsters may be below us.
But yeah, just imagine a realistic War of the Worlds that use giant space cannons that shoot out cylinders.
Number 5. Worlds of casting. So it's a given that Tom Cruise was going to star in the movie, as it was just as much his baby as it was Spielberg's, where he was cast as Ray. Dakota Fanning played his daughter Rachel. Back then it felt like she starred in nearly every movie that featured a character that was a little girl. Likewise, Morgan Freeman provided a narration, and it seems that he was narrating everything back then. Hey, that's not a bad thing. I would have Morgan Freeman narrate my life if I could. Justin Chatwin played Ray's teenage son Robbie, and I can't help but wonder if Robbie is named after the character Robbie Freeling from fellow Spielberg film Poltergeist. Spielberg really wanted Miranda Otto to play Ray's ex-wife Mary, but she declined as she was pregnant. So it was decided to incorporate her real-life pregnancy into the story, so when she filmed those scenes, she was actually pregnant in real life. Bill Murray was the #1 choice to play the creepy and disturbing Parlan, but Murray wasn't available as he was too busy filming The Life Aquatic. So Tim Robbins took his place, who honestly gives a really chilling performance. He's probably more scary than the frickin' aliens. Gene Barry and Anne Robinson turn up at the end of the movie as Robbie and Rachel's grandparents. They actually played the lead characters in the 1953 version of War of the Worlds. Speaking of cameos, a young Channing Tatum is one of the characters seen running around during the Martian attack. Number 4. War of the Worlds went into production earlier than it should have done. So the original plan for War of the Worlds was for the shoot to commence in 2006, with the movie being given a 2007 release. This was done so beforehand Spielberg could direct the spy thriller Munich and Cruise could star in Mission Impossible 3. However, upon reading the script, Tom Cruise loved it so much he was no doubt jumping on a couch and wanted to get to work right away on making this War of the Worlds movie. He contacted Spielberg and asked him to postpone making Munich in order to film War of the Worlds first, and likewise Cruise would also postpone Mission Impossible 3. And so Spielberg agreed. However, because of this, the movie's production had to be swiftly put together, which gave the movie a very quick and rushed pre-production, just lasting 3 months as opposed to the usual 6, of which was kind of unheard of for a movie of this magnitude. In addition to that, Spielberg pretty much used the entire crew he had previously rounded up for Munich to now be the crew on War of the Worlds.
So Tom Cruise was happy, Steven Spielberg was happy, and so I was happy. However, that couch that Tom Cruise may have jumped on probably wasn't happy.
Number 3. The plane crash site is now a tourist attraction. The shoot for War of the Worlds lasted 73 days, with the filming commencing just 7 months before the movie's release. Wow, that's a really rushed shoot. With filming taking place at locations including New Jersey, Connecticut, Virginia, New York, and California. Now, one of the most impressive sets built for the movie was the plane crash site. Seeing it for the first time was just jaw-dropping, as it looked like apocalyptic chaos, which I guess it was. The plane crash set itself cost $2 million to create, on the account that an actual Boeing 747 was bought and transported to the set and then subsequently destroyed, with the destroyed house being built around the wreckage. This scene was filmed at a Universal Studios backlot, and rather than cleaning up all the mess that was made to film this scene, the plane crash site was left intact and remains at the studio as an attraction for Universal Studio tours. All up, War of the Worlds used 6 sound stages and 3 backlots. When it came to the alien creatures, Spielberg never wanted them to be referenced as Martians, and he also wanted them to look like no other aliens seen in movies before, with these aliens being modelled after jellyfish and tree frogs. It is also said that Spielberg kept the script in secrecy, with a great deal of the cast and crew themselves not knowing what was going on or what the aliens looked like. Yeah, there was a lot of secrecy behind the scenes. The production of War of the Worlds was such a quick and swift one, composer John Williams only had access to 60 minutes of the movie when he started working on the score, which is something that had never happened to him before. Number 2. Post-Production Woes. So with filming wrapped up, the battle to complete the movie wasn't over yet. Supposedly, a lot of graphic scenes of gore were cut out, particularly shots showing civilians with horrific injuries. It is speculated that this was done to assure the movie would get a PG-13 rating. To be fair though, I always found the image of people being evaporated into dust to be a lot more horrific than any scene involving blood or gore. Seeing the dust and empty clothes flying around, that's all the horror you need right there. There was an infamous deleted scene known as the Camelot scene, where Ray and his kids are hiding behind an SUV in a neighborhood with an army of tripods stomping around, and even grabbing people out of buildings, where Ray and the kids have to get away from the impending pods. It was to be an intense scene, but it was actually never completed. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but according to Wikipedia, Vanity Fair reported that in the post-production stages of War of the Worlds, Tom Cruise's and Steven Spielberg's relationship began to sour. At that time, Cruise was getting a lot of negative press due to eccentric behaviour, which reached its peak when Cruise was a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show, where he appeared to be manic and grabbed Oprah's hands and then jumped on the couch. Spielberg felt that this bad press would hurt the movie. And yes, I remember this. Everyone was talking about the Oprah incident, on the account that it was just so bizarre and seemed like Cruise had lost control and was having some kind of a breakdown. Once again, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. Maybe he was just really happy and felt the need to jump on a couch. And yes, I remember when War of the Worlds came out, it was somewhat overshadowed by the Oprah incident, as that is what everyone was talking about when War of the Worlds was being brought into discussion. Or at least that's what happened in my neck of the woods. So if this story is true, then Spielberg was kind of right to be concerned and worried about it affecting his movie. Regardless, Spielberg and Cruise never worked on a movie together again, so that did seem to be the end of their working relationship. But in the wake of Cruise's hit film, Top Gun Maverick, it does seem that they have buried the hatchet. Number 1. War of the Box Office. War of the Worlds was released in June 2005, and it was the second highest opening on an Independence Day weekend, just behind Spider-Man 2. It also beat The Lost World Jurassic Park as being the fastest Spielberg movie to reach $100 million, as well as the highest opening for a Tom Cruise movie till Top Gun Maverick, as well as his overall highest grossing movie until Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Although Spielberg couldn't really take time to celebrate, as the day War of the Worlds came out, he started filming his next movie, Munich. All up, War of the Worlds would go on to make nearly $604 million on its $130 million budget, with it becoming the fourth highest grossing movie of 2005. War of the Worlds would also go on to be nominated for 3 Academy Awards. So all up, the movie was very successful, regardless of Tom Cruise's newfound hobby of jumping on talk show hosts' couches. It also got pretty good reviews from critics, with its special effects being praised, as well as being a fresh approach to the alien invasion trope, and the decision to solely focus on a single father was also praised, and seen as a welcoming new direction. To sum it up, I love War of the Worlds. It's a terrifying look into a realistic nightmare the world could descend into if such events happened. And never before had a cinematic invasion movie looked and felt so real. Something that always stood out to me in regards to War of the Worlds 2005 is just how scary the people can be. Yeah, never mind the aliens, the people. In previous alien invasion movies, human characters have always been shown to be heroic, perfect people who are going to save the day and kick alien butt. But in War of the Worlds, the people are shown to be erratic, selfish, and dangerous, willing to trample on their fellow humans to save themselves. Like the scene where all the people rush at the car and literally try to tear it apart. It's horrible. But yeah, this is totally what would happen. And all this selfish dog-eat-dog behaviour is somewhat reflective of the Ray character at the start of the movie. He is a selfish dad who has stopped caring and lost his love of being a parent, where during the alien invasion, unlike the other erratic people, he now has to step up and be the protective father that he's meant to be. And so through that, this actually makes War of the Worlds a personal story with growth and development. One that's about a crappy father stepping up to be a better man to save his kids. Theoretically speaking, War of the Worlds may be a battle of intergalactic species, but in this movie, it's really one man's eternal struggle to be a better person and do whatever he can to save his family.
Now I'm going to go all Vin Diesel here and say that War of the Worlds 2005 is a movie about family. And for some reason, I don't think it gets us talked about much now in recent times, which is a shame. So maybe it's time to go back and give it another viewing. Anyway, I'm Minty, and I myself am off to go and jump on a couch in a fit of crazed excitement. Because as you can see, right now I am really happy and excited and stuff. See ya!